the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, I want to talk about what this actually means for believers in Iran. And I know that talking about government structures may not be the most exciting thing, but it is really relevant for our story here. And so let me take 1 minute to break down what it means to live under an Islamic republic. As a republic and as part of the UN, Iran technically has a separation of powers. There's an elected president, a constitution, a parliament of 290 elected officials. These officials represent all the people groups of Iran, and there are even 3 seats reserved for leaders of traditionally Christian backgrounds. There's a chief justice, police, and armed forces, everything a typical government needs to function. But let's go back to that word, Islamic. Being an Islamic republic means that the latter is subject to the former. Yes, Iran has a president, but above the president, there's a supreme leader, known as the Ayatollah, which means a sign from God. And the Ayatollah can approve or remove any president at any time. He sits at the top of the Guardian Council, which approves or removes every member of parliament. He supervises the special clerical court that handles religious and clerical matters. He appoints the chief justice, and you guessed it, the police and armed forces answer to him as well. Iran is one of only 3 Islamic republics in the world. And when you get down to it, you can see how it doesn't actually function like a republic at all. But here's why this matters. For the last 40 years, politics and religion in Iran have been one and the same.
It's the Islamic Republic of Iran, so the main religion is Islam. So you cannot have any other religion rather than Islam. So when you are born in Iran, you are told you are a Muslim, you have to practice Islam, so and that's your religion by birth.
Islam is not a choice. It's what you're forcibly born into. And in people's minds, the rule of the government and the rule of Islam are the same thing. There is no separation between the church and state. And while that has elevated the level of persecution against Christians and other religious groups, it's also had one huge unexpected consequence. And I'll say it like this. The Islamic regime came to power at a time when people were looking for hope for the future. And they came on a wave of promises that things would change for the better. But that didn't happen.
For example, the promise of the religious leader in Iranian never take place in Iran. And it causes that people search about the, for example, truth in the other way, Because before that, Iranian was so strong in Islam. But after the Islamic Revolution, they found out there is nothing in Islam.
They were disappointed by it.
Yes.
This is Ramtin Sudman. Ramtin is an Iranian pastor who recently had to flee his home because of persecution. He's also the son of the first Christian martyr who was officially killed by the Iranian government after the Islamic Revolution took place. So what happened after the Iranian Revolution?
The excitement caused by establishment of the first republic regime based on the law of Islamic Sharia and the hope of creating utopia so quickly faded in the eyes of many Iranians because not only all social problems, despite the initial promise of the religious leaders of the Iranian Revolution, such as the poverty, discrimination, corruption never disappear, but also all problems were clearly visible in Iran's society more than before. And this caused an unanswered question among Iranians.
The Islamic regime was not able to deliver on its promises to build a better country. And the disillusionment and disappointment people felt after wasn't only with their government, but with Islam itself. And for people whose culture values the search for truth, this led many on a search for truth elsewhere, particularly in Christianity. It was in many ways the first step towards revival.
Perhaps the cropped fruit of Iran's government had a bitter taste of people, but it never tired them of searching for the truth. The positive evidence and good testimony of the life of the Armenian and Christian community in Iran during the years draw a lot of attention to Christianity among Iranians.
There's this quote by C.S. Lewis in his book Miracles. He says, "Every good chess player takes what is precisely the strong point in his opponent's plan and makes it the pivot of his own plan. He takes his opponent's best move and makes it work in his own favor. He makes unpredictable moves." This is kind of the pattern of persecution that we see across the world and in places like Iran. God's enemies will do everything in their power to crush the gospel, but somehow God turns it around and makes it work in his own favor to advance the gospel.
Expound on that about, you said the young generation, because some people may not realize how young so many, particularly the males, are. Explain that a little bit.
Well, it's about
79?
60 to 70%. Usually the statistics can't come very accurately out of our countries because it's developing, it's third world. But they say it's been about 60 to 70% of the populations are very young. It's
30 years old or younger, right?
30 and younger. And because of the oppression of Islam, they are among the most open. I would say the number one Islamic country that is open to another set of religion or ideology are the Iranians, and the second in Iran. If you can Google the sentence, who is the fastest growing church in the world, or what country? Number one is Iran. Per capita, we're the fastest growing, and then the Afghans come number two. So the church, these young people, because of the oppression, and they have tasted the tyranny of Islam, they have tasted that, and now they're open to other religions. And they know that Islam is not the answer. So they're looking. And when you present them the gospel, just like the way that it was presented to me, it was appealing and it was a good news. That I don't need to be dying for Allah to earn eternal life. Jesus has already died for me and for my sins. And that was the best message I've ever heard in my life.
What if I told you that Christianity was growing faster in Iran than in any other nation in the world? Iran, the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, led by a radical Islamic regime that is committed to the destruction of Israel and the United States. This same country is experiencing an incredible awakening, with tens of thousands of Iranians worshiping Jesus in underground churches. They do so at incredible risk. Christianity is illegal in Iran, and believers in Jesus can be put to death.
If you go back to 1979 and the Islamic Revolution in Iran, I think a lot of people thought, this is terrible for the church. They're going to kill Christians. They're going to kick missionaries out. This is a bad thing for the church. What has happened, though, in the last 40 years is that the church has exploded inside Iran. And part of the credit for that goes to the Islamic government. In fact, I've had Iranian Christians tell me the greatest Christian missionary in the history of Iran is Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution. And you say, well, wait a minute, how could this Islamic revolutionary be the greatest Christian missionary? And they will tell you, the people of Iran have seen the true face of Islam. Their government says, we are doing everything according to the Quran. We're doing everything according to Islamic principles. And they've said that for the last 40 years. And yet today you have one of the highest drug addiction rates in the world. You have corruption. You have an economy that's in shambles. And the people look at that and say, wait a minute, if this is what 40 years of Islam has done, what are the other options? What else is out there? And so many Iranians would tell you, I'm not a Muslim, I'm an atheist. Many would tell you, I'm not a Muslim, I don't believe anything. But many, thousands, tens of thousands, have come to know Christ in the course of that 40 years under Islamic rule.
All of these trends, the pushback on the hijab, the lack of belief in the coming of the Mahdi, the lack of a willingness to identify with Shiism, the willingness to identify with other faiths, are all a result of politics in the past 40 years of the Iranian government. And as the Islamic Republic has tried to shove religion down the throat of Iranians to mask their authoritarian grasp on power, you've seen Iranians contest their authoritarianism by contesting faith itself.
The survey also revealed that as Islam diminishes, Christianity is growing. 1.5% of those surveyed identified themselves as Christian.
And that is compared to about 30 years ago being less than 1%. That less than 1%, everybody thought it was less than 0.5%.
Mike Ansari of Mohabbat TV, a ministry that broadcasts the gospel into Iran, tells CBN News the survey is significant because it lends credence to what mission groups have been saying for years.
This data is important because it's indicative of the fact that in the country of Iran, in the midst of persecution and Islamic rule, Iranians are turning their back to their faith, to their institutional faith, and receiving Christianity.
Iran is one of the most dangerous places for Christians and other minority faith groups. Non-Muslims are often arrested or severely tortured for sharing or practicing their faith.
But Christianity is growing so rapidly, a true revival is taking place throughout Iran. Evangelical Christianity is growing at 19.6% annually according to the Operation War. Now Iran has world's fastest growing church. But Christians of Iran have no freedom to worship, conduct services, and share the gospel with Muslims. According to the government of Iran, it's a crime against the national security. It's illegal for them to share the gospel with Muslims. It's illegal to convert and preach in Iran. Christianity is an officially accepted religion according to the Iranian constitution, but converted Christians are sentenced to long term in jail. It's difficult for many Christians to live freely and openly in Iran, so usually they keep their faith secret. There are many underground house churches in Iran, and it's mostly led by women. Christians of Iran have played a significant part in the history of Christian mission. One unidentified Iranian church leader says, "Would you believe me? What if I told you Islam is dead? What if I told you the mosques are empty inside Iran? What if I told you no one follows Islam inside of Iran?" This is exactly what is happening inside of Iran. God is moving powerfully inside of Iran.
So as you shared, this is amazing in Iran. When somebody comes to Christ, rarely you see persecution family. Very, very rare. Most often, the rest of the family either come to Christ or they say, "Good for you. I'm not interested." But
I'm happy you found something.
Yes.
Which is, like you say, is so unique in the Islamic world.
That's right.
Does that make it easier for you as you're evangelizing, that you don't have to worry about your family freaking out about this because they don't like Islam either? So it's not as big of a hurdle to become a Christian?
The beautiful work of the Lord in Iran is not that, people come to Christ, they pray sinner's prayer and the numbers are growing. It's not an easy believism. And in the West, sometimes we say, just repeat this prayer, you become a Christian, and there is no life change in them. In Iran, if you become a Christian, you may pay by your life. So it's very serious. Now, we talk about miracles. There are many miracles happening in Iran, but I think the greatest miracle is when somebody's life is changed dramatically overnight. And everybody around them, they notice that. You used to be angry, used to be disrespectful, used to be suicidal. What happened? This was 2 days ago. I see you're happy. The parents say, "You used to be so disrespectful to me. Now you're calm." Let me share this story. This family, the woman called me and I said, how did your family come to Christ? He said, "Through my son, 12 years son." Did he share the gospel with you? No. What? Did he become Christian and share the gospel? No. So tell me what happened. She said, "I have 2 kids. They will get involved in the fight, take sides and all. It's just no peace, no joy in our family." But suddenly I saw my son calm down. So my son came home. I confronted him. I said, "Are you a Christian? I found the Bible." "Okay, yeah. I'm reading the Bible." "No, tell us what happened to you." He said, I'm afraid to tell you. Would you kick me out of the house?" "No, we like what you see in you." Well, I became a Christian. One night I was staying home and I watched this channel. I prayed to receive Christ and my life has changed. I contacted them. They sent me a Bible and now I'm reading the Bible. He said, which channel? Where? I said, okay. He said, we watched your channel and we all came to Christ through my son. Without even saying. He was even afraid to speak up, but his lifestyle. Our leaders in Iran saying, oh, there are so many Christians. One of them was saying, I went to a store and just unknowingly I was whistling, humming a Christian song. I wasn't even singing. And the store manager said, you're a Christian. How do you know? Because I know that song on the satellite channel and my wife is a Christian.
Christians are persecuted in Iran, but Pastor Nazanin says that where there is more persecution, the people are more courageous, and they continue to spread the message of Jesus Christ. Gordon?
Well, Chris, what can you tell us about the church in Iran? How is it holding up under this persecution?
Well, Gordon, I can tell you, first of all, the church is growing. In fact, it's the fastest growing church in the world per capita.
Did you know that the fastest growing church in the world today is in Iran? Really? The Islamic Republic of Iran? Yes! Like many other countries in the region, the years of war and hatred with Muslims killing Muslims in the name of their common God has turned many from the religion of their leaders. Some have become atheists or deists. Some have turned to ancient beliefs such as Zoroastrianism. But many have also been attracted to Jesus as a radical preacher of God's love, a teacher of forgiveness and reconciliation, breaking the culture of an eye for an eye that is so prevalent in the region. In an era of hopelessness, the Christian message brings hope, and people are responding to it.
Do you know which nation has the fastest growing church in the world? Hi, my name is Nathan, and although I was born a Muslim, after learning the truth, I put my faith in Jesus Christ and then spent 16 years helping the underground churches of Iran. That's right, Iran has the fastest growing church in the world. Iran's church is growing for one simple reason. People are so hungry for the love and hope they can find only in Jesus Christ.
Christianity is growing in Iran in a very organic way. People are comparing their faith of Islam to Christianity, and they're realizing that Jesus is talking about love. His message is all about love, not vengeance, not hatred, not anger. So there's a natural organic gravitation among a Persian world and the region towards the message of the gospel. There's a huge explosion of underground house church movement in Iran, so much so that World Mission announced in 2016 that the underground church in Iran is among the fastest growing churches in the world. And majority of that is underground. As you know, Christianity is illegal. Iran has sanctioned some really, really tough laws, penal codes to combat the growth of Christianity in the country. So therefore, yes, the majority of the movement is happening underground and it's growing very, very fast.
How is it over there? Are they afraid that the Iranian government will detect that you're using social media to reach them? How does that work?
What scares Islam is the truth, is the information. That's why it's most of the Islamic countries are closed to the internet and to the outside world, because they know if you put Islam to a test, it will die. It will, the errors will show up. So the idea is now, when they don't have control over internet, that freaks them out. So, but regardless of how much control they're putting on the internet and how we're still using some dial-ups. Now we're in fibers and DSL in America, but there they use still dial-up because they know if they open up the internet, that will be a danger to their power and to their authority, and they would not have control. But even with that, still, Iranians are finding ways and finding VPNs and proxies, and they break through these barriers to get to the outside world and to hear other sets of thoughts, ideologies, and religions, and that has opened the door for us to
get them with the gospel.
Amen.
And the gospel is the power of God into salvation for the Jew and to everyone that believes, right?
Correct. For boldness of the underground church. There are over 1 million Muslim convert Christians in Iran. Imagine, my brother, if all this 1 million become bold and effervescent with the love of Christ and start shining out. I mean, 1 million of them will not be massacred, but we can win a few million for Christ.